Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.
Everybody, and welcome to worship. Before we begin, we have a few announcements and reminders. The first is that the cellar closet is open all summer. Every Saturday, 9 until 12, we will be there. We hope that you will be too. We're always looking for volunteers to come and help, and also still taking donations of gently used clothing. So if you are interested in helping out or volunteering, or if you would like some more information, please be in touch with either myself or Linda Robinson. On Sunday, July 3rd, we will have coffee fellowship following the 10:15 service hosted by Sally and John. The Church Council will meet on Wednesday, July 6th at 6:30 in the Ladies' Parlor. And the Diaconate will meet on Sunday, July 10th after the 10:15 service in the Ladies' Parlor. Coming up in the not too distant future, there will be a crop walk rally on Tuesday, August 9th at 6 o'clock at the Greenfield United Methodist Church. And the annual Vacation Bible School is being planned for the week of July 25th. If you're interested in volunteering or know of somebody who might like to attend, please let me know and I'll make sure to get you in touch with the right people. Finally, this week, we would like to wish a very happy birthday to Henry Martin and Will Johnson, who are both celebrating on June 28th. Happy birthday to both of you. And now, as we turn our minds and hearts to worship, let us consider these words. We have come into this house built by the Lord to worship the God of creation. So come, let us praise God. Our call to worship today was written by Bruce Pruer. I invite you to respond with the words in bold type. Wonderful is the God of Christ, who gathers the poor of the earth. Glorious is our God, who wipes away the tears of sorrow. Wonderful is the God of Christ, who gives inheritance to the meek. Glorious is our God, who satisfies the hunger of the just. Wonderful is the God of Christ, who gives mercy to the merciful. Glorious is our God, who gives vision to the pure in heart. Wonderful is the God of Christ, who adopts the peacemakers. Glorious is our God, who lifts high the persecuted. Wonderful is the God of Christ, who finds the lost. Glorious is our God who awakens the dead. As we come to our time of prayer today, we continue to keep in our prayers Ingrid and Scott Witten, Kent Lawson, and Karen Ball. Let us pray. Ever faithful Lord, ever giving Son, ever present Spirit, for the many gifts you give us and the opportunities to enjoy those gifts, for your daily provision, and for your many signs of your healing love, for the hope amidst despair, and the light which always shines. For all these things, we give you our thanks and our praise. To show our gratitude in word, in thought, and action, we praise you. We thank you, Lord, and ask that our thanks may move beyond words to transform us into thankful, faithful people who see need and see the need to act. People who love to live and live to love. People who serve you by serving others. We ask that you help us to be amongst those who include the excluded and bring in those who are marginalized. That when the opportunities come our way to be healers of division and hurt, to be peacemakers and restorers, we aren't found wanting. Mighty, wonderful God, we bring before you people and issues from around our world, including those we'll never know personally, but who remain our sisters and brothers in you. Transforming, healing God, help us to make your light shine in the darkest places, to make peace known in the most violent places, to bring your hope to the most despondent places. Our prayers, spoken and silent, are brought to you. We bring before you those people and issues that are closest to us and that occupy our hearts and minds. And we come before you with our prayers of joy and sorrow because we believe that you hear them, you hold them, you answer them. We ask that you help us to open our lives to the answers you send, that you open our hearts to your Son, Jesus, who taught us to pray together, saying,
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Our scripture lesson today comes from the book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 2, verse 21. In the days when the judges ruled, there was famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. When they had lived there for about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons or her husband. Then she started to return with her daughters-in-law from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had had consideration for his people and given them food.
So she set out from the place where she had been living, she and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to go back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt kindly with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find security, each of you in the house of your husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept out loud. They said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even I thought there was hope for me. Even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they are grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the land of the Lord has turned against me." Then they wept aloud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, "See, your sister-in-law is gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. May the Lord do thus and so to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you." When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. So the 2 of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Call me no longer Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has dealt harshly with me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" So Naomi returned together with Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, who came back with her from the country of Moab. They came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Here ends our reading. May God add to our understanding of it.
Over the next 4 weeks, we are going to be exploring the story of Ruth. It's a story full of heartache and loss, but also triumph and love. In order to fully understand Ruth's story, we first need to understand the world in which it takes place. In the book of Judges, which comes right before Ruth, we learn that the story of Ruth takes place during a very dark, tumultuous time in Israel. In fact, we are told that the people had started doing what was right in their own eyes because there was no king. We know that when people start doing what's right in their own eyes, trouble usually ensues shortly after. With no leadership, the people flounder, and they began to turn away from God. A civil war breaks out, and the people begin to pull further and further and further away from God. And it's into this landscape of war and sin and chaos that we find Ruth, Naomi, and Orpah. As if the political upheaval wasn't enough, these women had major upheavals in their own lives, their own personal lives as well. There is famine in the land, so Naomi and her husband, Elimelech, moved to Moab in search of food. While in Moab, their sons marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. and things started to look up a bit. But then their husbands die, leaving them childless widows. Naomi is especially affected by the death of her husband and sons because she is far from home. She's a stranger in a strange land. It's at this point that Naomi decides to cut her losses and head on home to the land of Judah, when they are just starting out. Naomi tells her daughters-in-law that they should perhaps return to their own homes in Moab. She tries to convince them that they're young enough to marry again, to start over. One daughter-in-law, Orpah, agrees and goes back home. And we can't really blame her, can we? The future for them all looked bleak at best. However, the other daughter-in-law, Ruth, refuses. In what has become a popular reading for weddings, Ruth proclaims, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where I go, where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." And it's here that we begin to get a sense of the deep, abiding love that Ruth has for Naomi. It's a love that went well beyond the chaos and the war, the famine, and even death. It's a love not at all unlike the love God has for us. But Ruth's story doesn't end there. Instead, we find Ruth and Naomi entering Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. I can only imagine that at this point, Naomi is completely empty, exhausted. She had left her home once with a husband, lived in a strange land where she had 2 sons, lived through a famine, lost her husband, lost her 2 sons, lost a daughter-in-law. That is an awful lot of trauma and loss for any one person to take. And I'm sure that at least part of Naomi felt abandoned by God. In fact, once she arrives in this new land, she even requests that people call her Mara, because she feels that God has made her life very bitter. She says, "I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." But there is hope for Naomi. There is hope because Ruth has made the decision to stay with her. There's hope because the harvest is coming. The beginning of Ruth's story is a reminder for us that no matter how empty and exhausted we may feel, no matter how bad things may get, God is right here with us, and the next harvest is just around the corner. We've all had difficult times in our lives, times when we've struggled, like Naomi, times when we perhaps felt that God has made our lives bitter or abandoned us. And it's easy during these times to just wish away all the bad things that happen. It's easy to pray that God will just take away all the heartache and the sorrow, leading us around the time of famine into the abundant harvest. There's a story told of a little boy named Peter, who was a very lively little boy. Everyone loved him, his family, his teachers, and his friends. But he had a weakness. Peter could never live in the moment. He hadn't learned to enjoy the process of life. When he was in school, he dreamed of being outside playing. When he was outside playing, he dreamed of his summer vacation. Peter constantly daydreamed, never taking the time to just savor those special moments that filled his day. One morning, Peter was out walking in a forest near his home. Feeling tired, he decided to rest on a patch of grass, and he eventually dozed off. After only a few minutes of sleep, he heard someone calling his name. "Peter! Peter!" came the shrill voice from above. As he slowly opened his eyes and looked up, he was startled to see a striking woman standing above him. She must have been over 100 years old, her hair snow white, dangling well below her shoulders like a matted blanket of wool. In this woman's wrinkled hand was a magical little ball with a hole in the center, and out of the hole dangled a long golden thread. She said, "Peter, this is the thread of your life. If you pull the thread just a little bit, an hour will pass in seconds. If you pull a little harder, whole days will pass in minutes. And if you pull with all your might, months, even years will pass by in days." Well, Peter grew very excited at this discovery. "I'd like to have it, if I may," he asked. The elderly woman quickly reached down and gave the ball with a magic thread to the young boy. The next day, Peter was sitting in the classroom feeling restless and bored. And then he remembered his new toy. He pulled a little of the golden thread and quickly found himself at home, playing in the garden. Realizing the power of the magic thread, Peter soon grew tired of being a schoolboy, longed to be a teenager, with all the excitement of that phase of life would bring. So again, he pulled out the ball and pulled hard on the golden thread, and suddenly he was a teenager with a pretty young girlfriend named Elise. But Peter still wasn't content. He had never learned to enjoy the moment and to explore the simple wonders of every stage of his life. Instead, he dreamed of being an adult. So again, he pulled on the thread and many years whizzed by in an instant. Now he found that he had been transformed into a middle-aged adult. Elise was now his wife. He was surrounded by a house full of kids. But he also noticed something else. His once jet black hair had started to turn gray. His once youthful mother, whom he loved so dearly, had grown old and frail. And yet Peter still couldn't live in the moment. He had never learned to live in the now. So once again, he pulled the magic thread and waited for the changes to appear. Peter now found that he was a 90-year-old man. His dark, thick hair had turned white as snow, and his beautiful young wife, Elise, had also grown old and had passed away a few years earlier. His wonderful children had grown up and left home to lead lives of their own. And for the first time in his entire life, Peter realized that he had not taken the time to embrace the wonder of living. He had never gone fishing with his kids or taken a moonlight stroll with Elise. He had never planted a garden or read those wonderful books his mother had loved to read. Instead, he hurried through life, never resting to see all that was good along the way. He became sad at this discovery. He decided to go out to the forest where he used to walk as a boy to clear his head and warm his spirit. As he entered the forest, he noticed that the little saplings of his childhood had grown into mighty oaks. The forest itself had matured into a paradise of nature. He lay down on a small patch of grass and fell into a deep slumber. After only a minute, he heard someone calling out to him. "Peter! Peter!" cried the voice. He looked up in astonishment to see that it was none other than the old woman who had given them the ball with the magic golden thread so many years earlier. "How have you enjoyed my special gift?" she asked. Peter was direct in his reply. At first it was fun, but I hate it now. My whole life has passed before my eyes without giving me the chance to enjoy it. Sure, there would have been sad times as well as great times, but I haven't had the chance to experience either. I'm empty inside. I've missed the gift of living. You are very ungrateful, said the old woman. Still, I will give you one last wish. Peter thought for an instant and then answered hastily, I'd like to go back to being a schoolboy and live my life all over again. He then returned to his deep sleep. Again, he heard someone calling his name and opened his eyes. Who could it be this time, he wondered. When he opened his eyes, he was delighted to see his mother standing over his bedside. She was young and healthy and radiant, and Peter realized that the strange woman of the forest had indeed granted his wish and returned him to his former life. Hurry up, Peter! You sleep too much. Your dreams will make you late for school if you don't get up right this minute, his mother admonished. Needless to say, Peter dashed out of bed on this morning and began to live the way he hoped. Peter went on to live a life full. It was rich with many delights and joys and triumphs. But it all started when he stopped sacrificing the present for the future, and he began to live in the moment. There is no denying that life is difficult. Certainly, there are times when we wish we had a magic thread we could just pull and fast forward through the heartache or the emptiness, the loneliness, and the sorrow. But like Ruth, God chooses to stay with us on our journey, even when that journey brings us to and through famine or heartache or emptiness. God's steadfast love for us never fails. So let's live. Let us pray. Steadfast God, we thank you for your constant presence with us through famine and fear, celebration and sorrow. Help us to live through each of those moments, the good times and the bad, knowing that the one thing that never changes is your love for us. Amen. I hope everybody has a great week. I hope to hear from you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
And now, from this time of worship, let us go forth into the world. Let us go on the journey together, wherever it may lead us. Let us share the gifts of God with the people of God. Let us be gentle and bold, courageous and trusting. And let us remember that God will be with us this day and always. Amen.
God sent his Son, they called him Jesus. He came to love, heal and forgive, but greater still, the calm assurance this child can face uncertain days because he lives, because he lives. I can face tomorrow because he lives. All the fear is gone because I know and life is worth a living just because he lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth